Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Debbie B if you haven't been here before, and today I am talking about The Handmaid's Tale Season 3. I was frustrated by this season, but I also really enjoyed it, and I had nightmares. I say nightmares, just some of the characters kind of from the season entered my dreams. I actually dreamt about one of them last night, and it might be a sign I'm just watching too much Handmaid's Tale, or it could just be like my brain processing the story, I don't know. It might be a bit of both. But yeah, so I'll just quickly go over kind of the core cast, just in case you haven't seen one of these before. So you've got Elizabeth Moss as June, also known as Offred and Off-Joseph. Got Joseph Beans as Commander Fred Waterford, Yvonne Strahovski as Serena Joy Waterford, Alexis Bledel as Emily, also known as of Glenn, of Stephen, of Roy and of Joseph, Madeline Brewer as Janine, also known as of Warren, of Daniel and of Howard, Anne Dowd as Aunt Lydia Clements, O.T. Fagbennell, I still don't know how to pronounce that surname, sorry, as Luke, Max Mingheller as Commander Nick Blaine, Samira Wiley as Moira Strand, Bradley Whitford as Commander Joseph Lawrence, he's the one who's been entering my dreams lately, and Sam Jaeger as Mark Twalo, who is recurring through Season 3 and becomes a main character in Season 4, which I've just started watching. But yeah, so that's the core cast, essentially. So, the end of Season 2 was June basically trying to get out of Gilead again. So June, with the help of Commander Lawrence, is trying to get out of Gilead with Emily and with baby Nicole, who she's just given birth to. It ends basically with Emily in the back of the wagon with baby Nicole, and June just says, "You go, I'm staying," and you realise that it's because she can't leave her other daughter behind. As long as her daughter is in Gilead, she's going to be staying there. I think a lot of people kind of tried to give up after Season 2 because they just thought, if she's still in Gilead after all this is kind of going to drive me mad. But actually, I think this season was really, really good. It was frustrating at times, as I said, and there were certain parts where I was actually screaming at my television, like, "What are you doing? Do something stupid," because there's a kind of a recurring theme of people telling June not to be stupid throughout this season. But there comes a point when I just felt like she had the opportunity to do something stupid in a good way. And I was just there going, why isn't she doing it? Why isn't she doing it? Commander Lawrence is a very, very big part of this season. And again, as I said before, you're never really sure of his allegiances. You're not really sure who he aligns with. And he kind of flip-flops a little bit. Though I must admit, throughout this season, you see June having kind of a friendship with both Commander Lawrence. And to be honest, I think it started in Season 2, but this form of friendship with Aunt Lydia as well. In the world of Gilead, this is normal now. You know, in Season 1, it's clear that Gilead hadn't really been in power for that long. It's really hard to kind of follow the timeline because there's so much stuff that happens. I think the core story of this season is June kind of going a bit crazy. You really see her lose her mind to Gilead this season, and the relationship that she has with some of the other handmaids. Obviously she has her core group of friends, but there's one handmaid in particular that she gets a very, very strange relationship with. But yeah, the handmaid in particular that she has the estranged relationship with is of Matthew. As with the other seasons, June's main thing is about her daughter, and she arranges with her daughter's Martha. Is it her daughter's Martha? Yeah. The Mackenzies' Martha. The Mackenzies are who has her daughter, but she arranges with Frances, which is the name of the Mackenzies' Martha, to see her daughter at school in Brookline, which is in Norfolk County, Massachusetts. A lot of stuff kind of happens off the back of that. June takes Commander Lawrence's wife with her. It's never really explicitly stated what actually is wrong with Commander Lawrence's wife, but you know that she is unwell, she's on tablets, and the amount of times June says, "Get her to Canada, you know, they'll be able to treat her properly." You find out all sorts of reasons as to why Commander Lawrence can't actually go to Canada, and like if he did try and get his wife into Canada, he wouldn't be able to go. Well, which is essentially to do with the fact that he was part of a creation of Gilead and some of its sidelines. So it's the idea that Commander Lawrence would be arrested for war crimes if he ever did enter Canada. June's obviously there going, if you bring them something, they'll let you in, which leads on to kind of other things that June does. But I'll do it kind of in order. But yeah, so June arranges with the Martha to visit her daughter at school. Because she knows that it will be questionable if she goes out by herself, she convinces Commander Lawrence's wife to come with her, and they go for a walk. And June actually admits on the walk, she says, I'm really sorry, I kind of manipulated you. I want to go to Brookline and see my daughter. You know, I'm sorry for doing this to you. Let's go back home. And his wife says, actually, let's go to Brookline. Let's get you to see your daughter. When they get to the school, Mrs. Lawrence is there going, I'm the wife of Commander Lawrence, this very important guy, and I want a tour at school. So she gets in, but obviously June as a handmaid isn't allowed into the building, so she kind of runs around the building trying to hear her daughter's voice, and she's like touching the walls, and it's all very, very artsy. And then just as she's there going, Hannah, 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 some official people in black come to her and just say, you need to come with us. And she's led around to the front of the school where Mrs. Lawrence is going completely crazy, and she's going, I just want to see the children, I just want to see the children. And it's obvious that she's having a bit of a moment. And while they're saying, like, what's wrong with her, what's wrong with her? And June's going, she's not well, she's not right in the head, she's not well. And so she takes her home and she apologises. She ends up having to apologise to Commander Lawrence as well, because she's there going, I didn't mean to put her in any harm's way, I was trying to look after her, she did this for me, I'm really, really sorry. It goes to that kind of a strange relationship between just June and anybody she comes across, because it's that thing where, like, even with her previous commander, there were times when you almost thought they were getting along, only for them to be kind of like pushed away again, and it felt like it was going that way with Commander Lawrence as well. By the end of season 3, to be honest, I still have a bit of a, despite everything that happens with Commander Lawrence, throughout kind of the end of season 2 and season 3, by the end of season 3 you do realise he has a heart under it, and that even though he was part of the creation of Gilead and the Wastelands, it's not what he wants anymore, even though he was part of that and he was kind of granted a bit of immunity from stuff because of his role in the creation of Gilead. He's a nice guy under all of it, because when people realise that there has been no ceremony in the Lawrence household, Aunt Lydia and some of the officials come in to kind of bear witness to the ceremony, and Commander Lawrence is there going, we'll do it, but you're not allowed in the room. So he and his wife and June go up to his bedroom, where his wife is falling apart and saying, you said we were never going to have to do this, and she doesn't want to be a part of it at all. And it's interesting because obviously throughout the season you always see the handmaids going, you just do it, just close your eyes, it's a job after all, and just get on with it. And they're taking that to themselves. But it kind of turns it around when you see that episode, because you've got June telling Commander Lawrence, think of it as a job, close your eyes, just get on with it. So while normally that's applied to the handmaids to kind of just like breathe and just get themselves through what is essentially rape, June is now telling a commander that he just needs to do it, even though he doesn't want to. So it's kind of a consensual moment between the two of them as a job, even though neither of them wants to do it. It's a really, really weird concept to have that, where it's consensual but it's not. Neither of them really want to do it, but June knows that they will inspect everything after it happens, and she's just like, we can't not do this. So even though neither of us really want to do it, we have to. And so it's consensual but non-consensual at the same time, because they don't want to do it, but at the same time they know they have to, and they don't involve the wife in that part of the ceremony. But yeah, in arranging with the Martha to try and find her daughter, obviously she doesn't get to see her daughter at the school, she's there kind of scaling the wall almost, going, I can hear you, I can hear you. And then she's interrupted by the guys telling her that Mrs. Lawrence has kind of gone a bit crazy, should go back to the house. But then what she doesn't know is that Of Matthew saw June talking to the Martha at the supermarket, and Of Matthew tells people. Of Matthew tells on her, and it gets the Martha and other people in the household executed. And when June finds out that Of Matthew saw and told, because after the hanging of the people involved for child endangerment. That is what they say is happening. They say these guys are being killed because of child endangerment. When Matthew comes out and says, I did this for you, to keep you safe, and June is just like, what? Do you have any idea what you've just done? And she beats her to a pulp. She beats her to a pulp. In public, in front of all the other handmaids. I think Lydia sees a bit of it, but it's the other handmaids that take her off Matthew. That's what we had to say, off of Matthew. But yeah, it's just, as you can see, I feel like I'm talking more about the actual story now, because I think with the first 2 seasons it was a lot of finding your footing in this world of Gilead. But yeah, once all that happens with June attacking of Matthew, you then see everybody turn on her, because they're just saying she's done this really, really horrible thing, she's gotten innocent people killed, and of Matthew is pregnant. And June gets of Matthew to admit that in the beginning she got really scared and didn't want the baby. June uses that against of Matthew in what is essentially like a circle type thing. I can't remember what they call it, but it's basically where they kind of confess their sins. It's kind of like a confession. I'm not sure if it was called confession, but it's like a confession where they have the handmaid in the middle who makes their confession, and then all the other handmaids around kind of point at them and repeat certain things to make them feel tiny and small and worthless, whereas in an actual confession you'd have the priest saying, "Say Mary, how Marys, you are forgiven." In this case, no, they point it at the handmaid and make them feel even worse about what they felt. So when June kind of uses the information of Matthew being scared and not wanting the child for a brief second at the beginning, at first June is in the middle and she's in trouble for the way she has treated of Matthew. But then Aunt Lydia says, do you have anything else you want to confess? And putting on like the sweetest, innocent voice that she can think of, June goes, yes, Aunt Lydia, of Matthew told me that she doesn't want the child. To which everybody goes into shock horror. Aunt Lydia is obviously unhappy with that, because her ultimate goal, even though she's there for the handmaids, her ultimate goal is about the kids. And so she's just like, of Matthew, do you want to take a seat in the middle? Where of Matthew starts crying and blubbering, saying it was only for a second, it was only for a second. And you've got all the other handmaids pointing her and telling her that she's a horrible, horrible person for not wanting the child, even though of Matthew's there crying, going, it was only for a second, I want this child, I want this child, I love this child. And it all leads to kind of the mental breakdown of Matthew, where it leads up to a moment in the supermarket where of Matthew is very aware that everybody's looking at her and judging her, and she starts attacking people. She manages to get a gun from one of the eyes, and she ends up getting shot. At first, I think she does try to point the gun at June, and then June kind of nods at her, and she moves on to Aunt Lydia, to which Aunt Lydia kind of goes into full-on panic mode. And then Matthew is shot by one of the eyes, and that's the point when you find out of Matthew's name, because in that moment, Aunt Lydia looks at her and goes, Natalie, just before Natalie is shot, which then leads into a few episodes. Is it a few episodes? I think it's a couple of episodes of June being forced to kneel at Natalie's bedside at the hospital. And so she's on her knees pretty much all day. I think at night she's allowed to sleep in the bed next to Natalie, because she's in that room, and because I think it's that kind of like being stuck in one room kind of makes you go crazy anyway. You see her genuinely going completely insane in that room, because I remember the beginning of the episode, you hear the beeps and stuff coming from the machines that Matthew is hooked up to, because she's essentially brain dead, but they're keeping her alive because she's pregnant. And when June says, I'm sick, I need to go home, Aunt Lydia has said, no, you are staying with of Matthew, because she is your walking partner. You go home when she goes home. And with all the beeping coming from the machines, this is the moment when you know that she's going completely insane, because she starts hearing a song within the beeps coming from the machines, and it's, ooh, baby, don't you know that's what, ooh, heaven is a place on earth. She keeps repeating it throughout the episode, and you're just like, She's going truly, truly crazy. And she just keeps repeating that, ooh, heaven is a place on earth, throughout the episode. And so you're just there going, yeah, she's completely lost it. There's a point when she sees where some of the medical waste is going, and she starts going into the idea of, maybe I should just kill Natalie. Maybe I should just kill her and just kind of get this all over with. There's a point when Janine comes in, because Janine's in the hospital because of Matthew attacked her before she got herself shot. And so Janine's eye, because I think I said before, Janine had her eye, one of her eyes removed during training for the way she was kind of rebelling against everything. It was kind of make her compliant. And when she gets attacked of Matthew in the supermarket, she gets slash across their eye, and her eye becomes infected. She ends up in the hospital, and there's a point when she comes down to visit of Matthew, and June looks at her and says, put her out of her misery. And she's gotten this scalpel out of the medical waste and says, we could just do it. We could just do it. And this is the point when you really see Janine stand up for herself, because throughout the seasons, Janine is kind of portrayed as a bit weaker and a bit more childlike. But you do actually see some flashbacks in this season from before, when you see that Janine at one point did have a fire within her to stand up. So like when they were first like taken and put all together before they were officially turned into handmaids, you do see a clip of Janine really having like the balls to stand up for herself. But you realise that throughout kind of her time in Gilead, she's gotten meeker and weaker. So seeing Janine kind of have that moment of, we can't do that. You know, you are not well. We are not going to kill her. What the hell are you thinking? And that was a moment I was just like, yay, Janine! She's actually gotten a bit of her fire back. Yeah, throughout that's the whole kind of thing of seeing June really go kind of like the lowest of the low. Seeing her most weakest, and yeah, you just see her completely lose her marbles, basically. And then when she kind of finally gets through that, and you see June getting her fire back, and she decides she wants to go on a bit of a mission, and she's just like, yeah, okay. So this is the point when, if Matthew was gone, they've gotten the baby out, and everybody has realised how ill June has gotten while watching Natalie in the hospital, and Aunt Lydia starts to escort June out of the hospital. And this is the moment when June has a bit of a turnaround. She's like, actually, I want to stay. She's still alive, she's still hooked up, and I want to stay. And Aunt Lydia goes, good girl, yeah, sure, go back in. And that is the point when June has her kind of light bulb moment of realising what she needs to do next. And her idea is to get the children out of Gilead, which leads on to one of the best parts of this season, I think, where she gets involved and she really, really does create a full community of trust within the handmaids, with the Marthas and anybody else, and she becomes like a person for people to look to in regards to Mayday, which is the organisation which are betraying Gilead and trying to get people to Canada. And so when I use the word betraying, it's in a good way. June kind of starts to become the face of Mayday, when she's just like, I want to get these children out, and she goes on things to kind of see how Mayday works, how the resistance works, and what they do to kind of get people out, realising that some people go further in so they can get more information before extracting people. And it's seeing that part of it was really, really cool and really clever, because you see June learning what she needs to learn to get the kids out and to become the face of Mayday. It was just so good. The moment when the kids all starting to arrive at the house, when they've officially gotten this thing out, and again you do see her kind of slowly going crazy again, because you realise that she's going from one thing to another. It's one of those things where like you do so much and you start to kind of fall apart a bit when you go into burnout, basically. It's kind of what happens to June when all the Mayday and the children thing starts happening, because when the first child arrives at the house, they arrive during the daytime and everyone's looking at her going, it's supposed to happen at night, why are they here? And June's just there going, just get them into the house, get them into the basement, we'll deal with it. And when trying to deal with that situation, you see June go crazy again, because she gets a gun and she's pointing it at the Martha and saying, you're not allowed to go, you're here, we can't trust you, and she threatens to kill her. And then she eventually turns the gun on the child, and you see it in her eyes. I mean, Elizabeth Moss is absolutely fantastic as June, but you see it in her eyes, that moment when she's got the gun on the 10-year-old, and she's there going, she's shaking her hands, and she's there going, oh my god, I just turned a gun on a 10-year-old. What have I become? She starts to become very aware of what is happening to her, and she's going, no, I need to be a strong person. These people have trusted me, and so I need to do this properly. So the whole thing leading up to them trying to get the kids out, and they realise that, because originally Commander Lawrence is supposed to be involved, and he's supposed to be getting them a van so they can get everybody to the airport. Unfortunately, this is a point when Lawrence decides to go a bit off kilter, and he's there going, they talk about closing the borders, they know that a child is missing because it's the first child that arrives at the house, and this isn't going to happen. That's when Commander Lawrence kind of backs off, and June's there going, no, we're still going to get these kids to the airport, we are still going to get them out of Canada. We might not have a van, but actually the airport isn't that far away. We're going to get all the kids into the basement. We ourselves, as June and the Marthas, they're going to walk to the airport and create a trail. So they get like ribbons and things and tie them around trees so they know exactly where they're going. They come back, and this moment kind of made me cry. When they get back to the house after they've created the trail to the airport, they come back and they realise the door is open. And they're just like, oh shit, has somebody found them? They go into the house. They hear a voice coming from the basement. They go in, and you see the basement full of children and the few Marthas that are going with them. And you see Commander Lawrence in the middle, reading them a story. And that was the moment when my heart kind of burst a little bit, and it's just like, after everything, Commander Lawrence has still got that goodness inside him, which is really nice to see. But yeah, that moment kind of made me cry a bit. It got me choked up, and I was just like, oh. And then, as everything builds up, and then they finally get them out of the house and they start walking to the airport, and then you've got the other handmaids involved who are kind of helping them get there, and they realise there is actually a patrol just outside the airport, and June's going, you are going to follow that watercress and you're going to get them on the plane. And everyone else is going, but they'll see us, and June's there going, I'm not going to let them see you. She creates her own distraction of her own accord. She starts throwing rocks at the patrol, and then they turn their guns. I think they managed to kill 2 of them? I want to say they managed to kill 2 of them. This is like a major spoiler for the final episode. But yeah, the moment when you see the plane take off and you're just like, oh, I really hope they all made it. I really, really hope they all made it. So when you get that final moment when you see the plane arrive in Canada and you see the people that you've seen in Canada kind of coming together and saying, we don't know what we're getting here, we've got medics set up, we've got food, we've got things to keep them warm, and then the moment that door opens and the children start fighting out, and the faces of everybody going, hang on a second, this plane is full of children. It's full of children. This is unbelievable. And the moment that you see the first child that arrived at the house, and she looks over at somebody, and one of the workers who is there to kind of welcome them to Canada is just like, wait, that's my daughter. And you see them reunited and you're just like, yes, because Gilead isn't home. It was America at one point, but it's not there anymore. And so they are being reunited with their families in Canada. And it's such a beautiful moment that also kind of ties into what happens with the Waterfords this season when they are manipulated into stepping onto Canadian land where they are arrested for war crimes. And then when that happened, I was just like, yes! It was such a good moment when I saw the Waterfords being arrested. It was just like, finally, they've been arrested for war crimes. And this is the point when you see Serena and Fred turn on each other. Oh, because at first, Serena is given immunity for her crimes in Gilead to basically give them information about what Fred has been doing the whole time. And then after all that comes out, Fred then turns on Serena and says, wait till you hear what she's done. At which point then she is arrested for some of the things that she did. in Gilead, including the rape of June in season 2. Just seeing how it all kind of adds up. I will say, I saw that actually that this was, I think it was one of the most least liked episodes of this season, and I don't know why. It's the episode where you look a little bit into Lydia's backstory. You see Lydia before Gilead, and you see her as a school teacher. You hear that she was a judge, and then after that she went into being a primary school teacher. And you can tell she has a way with people. You even see it with the handmaids. She does have a caring bone in her body. She does have that heart inside of her, but it's so easy for that heart to shatter, for her to turn on people, which is what the episode shows you, because you see her as a school teacher, she's looking after a child, the mother hasn't turned up, and she's there going, I'm going to ring her again, I'm going to ring the mother again and say she's coming home, and say that I'm taking her son home with me, feed him chili, and then 2 seconds later the mother comes in and says, I'm so sorry, just life happens. And it's a friendship you never thought you'd see, because even before Gilead, Lydia was very religious, she didn't like swearing, she seemed like a nice person, but she seemed very sheltered within her religious beliefs. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with having religious beliefs, but I think some people do get sheltered quite a lot from the real world, and realising that not everybody will agree with you, and that's okay. But yeah, Lydia feels very sheltered in that mindset. And she and the headmaster of the school have a bit of a relationship. There's a very genuine friendship there, which then leads on to something a bit further. And you see that Lydia's just very good at having a grudge. She's very good at having a grudge, and I'm not going to say that's a bad thing. In a way it is. There was a few people who were very good at holding grudges in my family. My grandma was quite good at it, my uncle was very good at it. It's a thing that people do sometimes, and you can say it's good or bad. I think it's just one of those things where it's just something about yourself you have to deal with, and Lydia never deals with that. But yeah, that whole backstory for Lydia, I think a lot of people thought it was kind of pointless. I don't think it was. Maybe it's because I have read the Testaments, and so I've got that little bit of extra detail about what Lydia was doing that whole time, and I really, really hope that they kind of address some of what Lydia was doing in the background in season 5, which is the one after the one that I just started watching, because it's getting to a point with the season where I don't think they've got much of the story left to tell. Because having started season 4, in season 4 you see June and a few of the other handmaids on the run, basically. So it feels like it's a natural progression to the end. I think, if anything, they might get 2 more seasons out of it. Possibly. Maximum 2. But season 5... considering what I've seen so far in season 4, I think season 5 could be the last one, to be honest. Can you tell how interested I am by this world? The dreams that I've been having, oh my god. But seriously, I was dreaming about Commander Lawrence last night. He was in my dreams. It was combined with stuff from work, and it's obviously my brain kind of trying to deal with stuff. And I think it might have just been that the actor just fit something in my brain. He was partly Commander Lawrence and he partly wasn't in my dream, but it was very, very weird. I woke up thinking, what on earth was that? If anybody can interpret dreams, they wouldn't have a clue where to start with that one. But yeah, season 3 of Handmaid's Tale. Please don't be put off by season 3, because I think it was actually really clever. For me, the standouts this season were Bradley Whitford as Commander Lawrence. Again, Yvonne Strahovski as Serena. There's something about that storyline which still kind of gets to me. I will say that after all the flip-flopping of her personality throughout season 1 and season 2, her personality is really solidified in season 3, I think, when you find out about her role in Gilead and how she reacts to that, because there's points in season 2 where it looks like she feels incredibly angry about how everything has turned out for herself, when she kind of realises that she has absolutely no power at all in Gilead, and that she gave it up for what seemingly seems a really stupid reason. But then in season 3, she actually says, no, I gave this all up because I wanted a child. You need to give me this child. That's what she's saying to her husband. And he just like, okay, that explains so much, because the nice parts of Serena's personality coming out in like season 2 especially, you see that it all had to do with June's pregnancy. And the fact that in this season, Serena really believes herself to be a mother. And again, I was shouting at my screen saying, you're completely psychotic, Serena. This child has nothing to do with you, because it's not yours. It's not your child, it's not your husband's child. And you essentially organised the rape of your handmaid with your driver, Nick. I mean, that's what gets her arrested in the end. Because originally it was the war crimes, and then they're going, hang on a second, you were involved in getting your handmaid pregnant by somebody who wasn't your husband. But yeah, Serena, her role is really solidified this season, and her entire personality revolves around the idea of becoming a mother. And that moment when June looks at her and says, but you're not a mother, and you never will be. You will never be a mother. At this rate, you were never meant to be a mother. Oh, it stings. It stings hearing that. And you can just imagine what Serena is thinking. Oh, so good, so good, so good. But yeah, Handmaid's Tale season 3. The next season I will be talking about will be season 4. I've watched 2 episodes of season 4 so far, and so that's going to be a very interesting one to talk about. But yeah, so thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe if you're not already, and I will see you next week with a book probably. But yeah, bye bye, stay safe, love you all, bye.